Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for coming. It's always exciting to see people away from the marina, and in an event like this, have so many people show up. It's really nice. So tonight we're going to be going over the marina future. That is our agenda up there on the slide. There's information out in the lobby. You can go review if you want to right now. We're going to do a presentation on what the options are. We're going to have a question and answer session. During that session, you'll walk up to the podium. There is no trapdoor there. You'll be okay. Then after the question and answers, we're going to ask you to pick up your chairs and put them against the wall, and we're going to bring the easels in here. And we're going to then give you stickers to put on the options that you think are best. And we're going to use that information to relate it to the city council. Then around 7:30, this event's going to end. But if you want to stay longer and talk to me, that's fine. I'll be here a little bit longer. So we really appreciate you coming. That's exactly what I'm going to do right now. Yeah.
Great segue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So with us tonight, first of all, is our mayor, Ronnie Wright. Then two of our council members. We have members of the Marina Advisory Committee here. Can you raise your hands? We have city staff here. Sabrina, our city administrator over there. She worked really hard on this. Tim over there doing the audio video. Elise back there. Thanks for coming, Elise. And then up here, my name is Chris Sublett, and I'm the harbor master. Most of you know me. To my right is Brian Smith. He is the Parks and Recreation Director. He is my boss. Wonderful individual. Great asset to the city. Pay me now. So this is going to be pretty lighthearted. To his right is Bill Gherkin, and he's with Moffitt Nickel, and he is the project engineer for the dredging, reconfiguration, everything we're trying to do at the marina. And to my left, last but not least, is Paul Sorensen. He's with BST, and he does all the financial analysis from our rates to what we can afford during these projects and those sorts of things. So we're all going to be available for questions and answers for you when we get to that session. And just approach us and let us know. Ken Hewlett just walked into the room. He is the chairman of the Marina Advisory Committee. He's been with the Marina Advisory Committee longer than I've been at the marina, so he's a wealth of knowledge as well. So really the plan for this meeting is to review what we know. And honestly, we don't know everything at this time, but we wanted to share with you what we know for the future of the marina. And then we wanted to use the information that we get from you tonight to present those options to the city council next month probably, or later this month. We really wanted you to have a chance to review the options and then to digest the information. And our hope is that we can get a lot of questions and comments and suggestions tonight. Not just us talking with you, but you talking with us, making this super interactive. And then, of course, I introduced everybody already. So there's quite a lot of resource in this room that you can rely on. And the only stupid question is the one that's not asked. So please ask whatever's on your mind. Before we get too far into this, we have to understand what the marina is. Who uses the marina? So the demographics of the marina is pretty fascinating. We're not a regional, or we're not like a big marina that draws people out of our county. We're more of a regional marina. 77% of our tenants are from Island County. And of that 77%, 49% are from Oak Harbor. So most of our tenants are from Oak Harbor that use the marina. A few from Coupeville, 25%, and then about 3% from Camano Island. And then if you look at the chart there, you can see that the numbers are small coming from King, Skagit, and Snohomish. So the users of the marina are typically the people that live around here, which is a little different. Some of the challenges we're looking at. The marina turned 50 years old on September 9th. That's pretty monumental for a marina. On Saturday, we'll be having a marina birthday celebration from 11 to 2. We encourage everybody to come. We've got a lot of fun things planned. Some of the biggest challenges we have is the marina's silting in. And those of you with deeper draft boats know that the challenge is you can only use your boat at certain tides. The breakwater is failing. Over the past few years, we've put roughly $2 to $3 million in that, largely in insurance claims. The south side was built in the mid-'80s, and the north side was built in the early '90s. So it's reaching the end of its lifespan. And then as you walk around the marina, you know that the docks in our water systems and our electrical systems and even our sewer system are starting to fail. In the past few years, we've had electrical system failure that just even less than a year ago. And we had a fuel line rupture underneath the launch ramp under the cement. So things are starting to happen that are unpredictable and things that we can't check or monitor until they fail. So talking about the channel silting in, we've had some initial conversations about that channel, and we haven't received a number for that, but we're estimating that just to dredge the channel will be in excess of $50 million. We did work with the Army Corps of Engineers earlier this year, and we learned that that is not a federal channel. So that means that they're unable to assist it with dredging it. That means that the dredging of the channel will come from the city of Oak Harbor, and we can't count on any federal source to help us with that. Basically, the cost of these projects, and this is what's wreaking havoc through the marina, are more than the marina or the city can afford. As we look at the finances of the marina, just to dredge the marina has been estimated at $11.8 million. We have about $2.3 million in reserves. We'll use about $1 million of that, meaning that the debt service will be $862,000, almost $863,000 per year. Just to give you an idea of where that is in relation to what we're currently paying, currently paying with our dredge fee $350,000 a year. So if we were to finance that on our own through a bond, the dredge fee would nearly double, making it almost more than the mortgage itself. Our annual revenue is about $2.3 million. We're unsure at this point if we can afford that dredging debt service. We're still looking at different ways to do that, but we're still trying to figure that out as well. So as we look at the marina and we know the challenges and the things that are starting to fail, we really have three options for the marina, and this is the gist of what we're talking about tonight. The three options for the marina are removal and replacement of the marina, renovation of the existing marina, and then closing the marina. So first, let's talk about removing and replacing the marina. This is a full haul everything away and bring something new in there. This would be modern slips, modern electricity, modern water systems, all of that. To do that, we still have to dredge. The cost of the dredging is $11.8. We need to replace the breakwater. That's estimated at about $7.5 million. And then the demolition and redevelopment of docks A through G is estimated at nearly $25 million. So the total estimated cost for a squeaky, shiny new marina is about $44 million. And we think that'll provide about 50 years of service, because that's what we got out of this marina, and technology for marinas is much better now. There's some advantages and disadvantages to that. The advantage is we get a brand new modern facility. We can accommodate larger boats. We'll slow down the siltation. There's always going to be siltation there. And then it extends the lifespan of the marina. The disadvantages are it's the most expensive option there. It's the option that's going to cost the most and hurt the most. It's going to take several years to implement. We'd probably use some sort of phased approach. Des Moines is currently redoing their marina, and I believe they're in the 12-year range, 15-year range to complete it. So we're not looking at hauling everything away and making a brand new marina overnight. Rates will certainly increase, but it doesn't even address the channel issue. We still have that issue. Renovating the marina. Again, the dredging, and this would be going through and changing all of the broken floats, all of the whalers and rub boards. Those are the wooden boards where your cleats are. Replacing the water system, the electrical system, and the mechanical system, which is sewer. We estimate that to be about $13.2 million. bringing the total cost to about $25 million. And this extends the life of the marina by 15 years only. In 15 years, we'll be sitting here doing the same thing. The advantages of this are it's much less expensive, less of an impact on rates, faster implementation. It's likely to be something that's phased, but it'd be much faster than the complete removal and replacement. And it provides more time to determine and find options to replace the marina. The disadvantages are the time it extends the marina isn't super long. It's only 10 to 15 years. It doesn't reduce the siltation because we'll have the same breakwater. And the channel is still there. It doesn't address the channel. The last option, and the one that I don't like, obviously, is to close the marina. And just to put that in perspective, we know that most of the marinas around the Puget Sound are roughly our age. They're built in a similar fashion with the Bellingham Marine Unifloats, the wooden whalers, electricity in the water or through the docks, PVC water pipes, those sorts of things. So we're not alone in this challenge. Our consultants, Paul and Bill, are seeing many marinas and having many marina discussions about this. One of the biggest challenges is that if we close the marina with the eye towards putting a new one in, like in a year or two, that's just not going to happen. They are not building any new marinas around the Puget Sound, and in fact, the Puget Sound has one of the toughest regulatory requiring systems in the whole country. So it's really hard. There's a couple ways we could do that, though, if that's the option that's chosen. We can do a hard close where we say, okay, we're going to be closing this in 6 months, 3 months, whatever it may be. Or we can do a phased closing where we work with the docks that are the most broken up or the most damaged or the most silted in, and just start closing those down slip by slip systematically over a period of time until there's none left. There's a cost to this, though, and there's a rather large cost. That cost could exceed $10 million. If we choose this, everything from the park to the launch ramp has to be removed. Harbor Master's office, pier, sheds, parking, storage, everything. So the challenge with this is, if this one's chosen and it's $10 million, how's the city going to fund that? This is a no revenue choice. The city would be on the hook for that $10 million. So we need to find a way to keep this open because that's not going to bode well for the city. It's not going to bode well for our boaters, you folks, or the general public who come down there and just walk around, take pictures. The public who's going to be there Saturday touring the boats like Bill's boat. Thank you, Bill. That's going to be fun. So it is an option, but it's maybe not the best option. There are some advantages, though. The city is no longer financially responsible. If we were to default right now, the city would be responsible for the marina bills. You see, the marina is an enterprise fund. And what I mean by enterprise fund is we don't receive any general fund dollars, taxpayer dollars, any city revenue. The only revenue that we have to work with is the revenue that we generate at the marina. That's through the moorage, storage, fuel sales, those sorts of things. So if this were the option, they may be able to fund some of the demolition with the reserves of the marina, but that still leaves a pretty big bill to be handled. Another advantage is it could mitigate the cost of owning a marina, the lawsuits and stuff like that. It could reduce some public concern. There is public concern regarding owning a marina in a city. There's only 2 cities that own saltwater marinas, and that's us and Des Moines. Des Moines is a large area. It's by the airport. You all know where it's at. They have about 700 slips, and they attract people from that metropolis area, and they have a lot of demand in that area. If you go back to one of the slides I showed you, we're in Oak Harbor Marina. We're in Island County Marina. One of the things that could happen is the upland area could be repurposed for something as well. If you think about where the sheds are, where the parking lots are, the city could use that for something else, potentially. Some of the disadvantages are a phased closure may result in faster dock failure. And what I mean by that is, if you look at our marina, the areas that we have most of the problems are the areas that are largely vacant in the winter. D dock, the end of B dock. And that's because the boats, when they're tied to the docks, absorb a lot of the energy, a lot of the current, a lot of the momentum, and in a sense provide protection for the docks, the cement docks and the whalers and all that stuff. So without boats, they would fail much quicker. Again, there'd be no revenue source for the removal. Our business owners, our downtown business association, all those people that work hard and put on the music festival for us and all those things. The marina generates about $5 million of revenue in economic development for the city. That's through money that our regular tenants spend, and that's through money that our guest mortgage tenants spend. So we are making a difference. $5 million in the city of Oak Harbor is a lot of money to be spread around. And it goes all over the city. Restaurants, bars, stores, big chains, mom and pops, family operations, everything. There's also the loss of approximately $380,000 that the city would lose from the marina in fees that we pay for services that are provided. So there's a whole list of disadvantages, but there are some advantages. And this is one of the options. So switching to the financial strategies and pieces, Brian's going to go ahead and lead this discussion.
So, as Chris shared, none of the options are a freebie, right? So we need to find a way to fund any one of these. And really, the direction we go is going to be a community decision. It's a decision that council will have to make, and they want to hear your voice in what direction you want to go for the future of the marina. The direction we go will impact what funding options are available to us. And we really are trying to think outside the box and brainstorm just about every possible scenario to fund each one of these options. And it's a difficult decision. It's almost guaranteed that it's going to require some form of community support. So the main options that we're looking at right now are funding strategies. Looking at the formation of a port district. As Chris mentioned, the marina is a municipally owned marina, one of the only ones in the state. And so we are at a disadvantage in a lot of ways that port districts have a privilege with, especially around applying for and receiving grants. Almost all grants supplied by both the federal government and the state require a port district. They're usually economic development based, and recreational marinas such as ours just don't qualify. And regardless, we still have applied for many and have just been turned down. Another option is, and this goes along with the formation of a port district, are grants and legislative support. The grant side of it is largely dependent on whether we were to form a port district. Legislative support, we have tried at a city level to connect with the feds on a joint effort for whether that's the channel dredging or some portion of the various challenges that we're looking at. We have enthusiastic support at the state level, however. We've had discussions with our state representatives. They would like to go to bat for us and try and connect us with federal legislative level supports and earmarks in congressional capital appropriations. And those are discussions that we have been having and continue to have. And regardless of what direction we go, we'll probably continue to do this. As you can imagine, though, things like forming a port or going after legislative support is kind of mute if we end up closing the marina. Special taxes and bonds. So a lot of the activities for funding and getting those revenue sources, those mechanisms, can also be done at a city level. And that is in the form of a special tax that we would bond against. So to go over each one of these, the port district, there are 75 public ports in Washington. Washington State has more ports than any other state in the country. Ports drive more than just marinas. That tends to be sort of the base focus, but a lot of their activities, and I would say probably the majority of the expenditures that they get those revenues for is around economic development. Anything from infrastructure, things like water systems and utilities and sewer treatment systems, all the way up to development of retail and business districts. We have met with the other ports on the island. They are very optimistic, enthusiastic, and supportive of the city of Oak Harbor creating a port district. There are options around those geographical boundaries. One of the things we have talked about is the creation of an island-wide port district. Districts can be either created on a county level or a sub-county level. Those require, at a sub-county level, those just require a simple majority vote to approve that. One of the other districts can also annex us in, like the Port of Coopville. Both port districts are hesitant with any kind of commitment towards some sort of a joint district. They need to have more discussions with their commissions. But it's something that we're looking at and exploring, and we'll continue to do so. The advantages, like I mentioned, really come in the form of increased grant opportunities. Suddenly, all those doors that have been locked to us are open, and we'll be able to go after quite a bit of grants, which play in very nicely with legislative support and congressional earmarks that can be supported through that. It also provides a long-term financing option, especially for some of these replacement projects like the Breakwater, like the marina, either redevelopment or renovations, which simple user fees that we get through marina users would not be able to fund. We're able to support the dredging projects, which we have done over 50 years successfully, but these major infrastructure replacements require an additional revenue source beyond just the marina users. Port districts also have a lot of advantages with job creation and other opportunities that provide that economic development revenue to the city and benefit the community as a whole. So if we were to go forward with a port district, we really would be presenting to the community not just support and continuation of the marina, but all the different activities and projects and development that a port district could bring to the community. Some of the disadvantages around doing a port district is the city no longer has control of the marina. The port district is governed by its own commission, many of which work very well with the cities that they are located in, but that we would no longer be one of the unique municipally owned marinas. The upland area may not be transferable. That's something that we're still exploring. The upland area was given to the city by the Navy. There is a reversion clause in there. And so developers might be a little bit hesitant around what we do in that area as far as development. It is a lengthy process, and there are costs to going through an election with a port district. And there has not been a creation of a port district in about 30 years. Many districts have expanded or even merged, but very few have formed. Part of that is that new marinas just haven't been created, right? Puget Sound is so restrictive in its regulations around coastal lines and those areas that it's really not a great business model to get into. So the second funding strategy, grants and legislative support. I mentioned we do have enthusiastic support from our state legislatures that would like to help us find solutions to this. This will probably be in the form of going after one of these projects, like the replacement of the Breakwater, right? Almost entirely require a port district to apply for those grants, however. We, like I mentioned, we tried going to the feds with Army Corps of Engineers to look for a partnership. The channel and parts of the area around the marina in the past were federally designated channels when the area was a seaplane base. And since then, they have decommissioned that. And so the Army Corps of Engineers will not be able to step in to do any of that channel dredging without a direction from legislatures and a funding source to do those activities. So some of the advantage, though, of whether it's a congressional earmark or a grant is that we don't have to repay those. They are fairly restricted on the activities that we do, but once we have legislative support, then a lot of that's very attractive for the grants that we can go after. Some disadvantages, though, with this is that it is a very competitive process. Usually we do have to be a port district. These projects have a very specific use, and those uses are into perpetuity. You might have heard in some of the discussions that we've had that we take grants for development, whether it's procurement of land for like park areas or development of a recreational asset. Those grants lock us into a recreational use forever. Right now we're dealing with an issue where we received a boat through a grant for the marina. We have to use that boat into perpetuity for the specific purpose that it was procured for through the grant. And so we need to be very careful about what funding we get, because there is a commitment that usually lasts forever tied in with that. Which I will also say with that, I guess, is that any grants that we take that are going to fund the use of marina infrastructure kind of tie the city into keeping a marina for the life of that project. Special taxes and bonds. So some of the questions that get asked during creation of port districts is, why are we creating a district? The city has the ability to tax by itself already anyway. And that's true in some ways, but the city is very limited on what types of taxes can go to support a marina. We would have to ask voters for a levy lid lift or an excess bond levy. And the city only has limited ways that we can go after different taxes. Usually it's in the form of a sales tax, a property tax, which is very unpopular, a business and occupancy type tax or B&O tax, or a utility tax. We've already done projects that are just about maxing this out with utility taxes, so those were recently adjusted. The city gets only about 1% of the sales tax, and implementation of a business and occupation tax is the only tax that we have not taken advantage of. Usually it has a high revenue threshold, but it does provide an additional tax burden on local businesses. Businesses have a higher economic elasticity than property utility taxes, but we are sensitive to that. Some of the advantages, though, of that is that it's a pretty small percentage of businesses that would be affected depending on the level that we set that tax at, the bracket level for that. And it's unlikely that those costs would be passed on to consumers or create any sort of inflation with goods in the area. And it provides a stable revenue stream for us to bond and do some of those types of projects. So we want to have some good discussion with the community. We want to hear your voice. We want to know what you feel the direction of the city needs to go with a marina. Do we want to stay in the marina business? Do we not want to stay in the marina business? We're going to have a number of events to have these discussions before we bring this to council to kind of give us a formalized direction and a motion to staff on how we want to proceed. We are going to do an additional open house planned for October 2nd. It'll be here, 6 to 7:30, probably a very similar format. And then we're looking to do a city council workshop. Probably not on maybe on the 23rd, or it might be on the 15th. We'll make sure that notice gets out on when that will be, but we'd like to have a good public comment and discourse around that when we bring that to council and have those discussions. There will be an additional meeting after that for an action item. Not depending on whether we do we bring this to council on the 15th, which is what we had originally talked about, but someone's changed the slide, so I'm guessing that is going to get changed to the workshop on the 23rd. That's not always open to public comment, but the follow-up meeting where the action item will be taken will have public comment at that time. And you can also submit public comments online through email as well. So we're going to shift the configuration of the room a little bit. If we can ask for your yes, you're right. We will do that. Don't get up yet. Just talk about what we're going to do here. We are going to have a question and answer session first, but after that, we will ask for your help. We're going to put the chairs away and bring in the boards, and we're going to give each of you 2 sets of stickers. One is for the future options of the marina, whether we redevelop it, which is really a replacement of the marina, whether we renovate it, which is fix it up and extend the life of the current marina for another 10 to 15 years, and we have this discussion again, or we move towards a closure of the marina. And you'll have an opportunity to put your stickers on there for first option, preferred option, second preferred option. And then we'll also have a set of stickers, 1 and 2, for preferred option, or really how you feel the likelihood of success for one of these funding strategies, whether it's the creation of a port district, which will require a vote of the people, or it's a special tax that we bring on, likely to be a business and occupation tax. But there's other formats we can look at, but that's the most likely. Or we continue to look at legislative support. But without some other funding source, it's unlikely that any kind of legislative support, without the ability to go after grants, is going to be able to fund all the different projects that need to happen. We'll also have some sticky notes for you to write some comments on and put those on the board as well. So before we jump into that, we do want to open it up for a dialogue, questions. We'll answer those to the best of our ability. And I think we have put for about 45 minutes for question and answers, right? And we have Bill and Paul here as our technical experts to help us answer those for you. So I don't know if we have a format we want to follow with this, or...
I think the best format would be just if you have a question, just raise your hand and move over to the podium and just speak clearly into the microphone so that we can hear you.
We would ask you to be very concise and just be articulate with your questions so we can make sure that everyone has a chance to ask the questions they want to. And then afterwards, when we have the boards out, we'll be able to have a lot more one-on-one and a longer discussion. But some of the questions that you have, probably everyone has, so feel free to come up. Yes, please.
Put your options back up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
My name's Terry Nye. I'm a resident of Langley, and we have a 42-foot sailboat in slip F14. First of all, I'm very concerned about the third option, the option to close the marina. As you know, there's 420 slips in this marina, about an 80% occupancy rate, so that's somewhere in the high 300 boats that would be displaced. And I guarantee you there's not 300 slips available between Olympia and Point Roberts. There's probably 10% of that if we're lucky. Most marinas in the area have got long waiting lists, multi-year. One marina I spoke to won't even take our name on a waiting list. Their waiting list is already so long, it's like off the end of the paper. So the question is, where would those boats go? That's a real problem. Having been a public official for 45 years and struggled with the issue of funding capital projects, but working for special districts, I'm well aware of the financial advantages between a special district, such as a port district, and a city. And I would advocate for the consideration of developing a port district. I think that's economically the best long-term solution to the problems. Just the ability to spread the funding over a larger area, a larger tax base. I guess my final comment is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but my feeling is if Oak Harbor closes the marina, we're going to have to change the name of the city to Oak used to be a harbor. So, yeah. Because if it doesn't have a harbor, it can't claim to be one. Anyway, thank you for your consideration.
You know, I'll add to that, you know, we are very sensitive and aware that we also have liveaboards, right? So the marina is also a residential place for some of the people in our
And we
community.
already know we have a housing problem on Whidbey Island.
Paul, do you want to speak at all to just, you know, in the situation where the marina were to close and we have suddenly hundreds of people that need to relocate, what does that look like? And what's the situation you're seeing in marinas around the area?
It depends on the slip mix for the marinas. Usually in the 20-foot and the small 30-foot slips, we see some weakness in the market. But anything above that, and that's similar to what you have here in Oak Harbor. Anything above, I'm sorry, anything above like a 35-foot slip, they're pretty well utilized. And as you go farther out to 50s, 60s, 70s, it could be 5-10 year wait list period to get in. But this is a problem that's impacting all of the marinas in Puget Sound. You know, we used to think of Elliott Bay, or I used to think of Elliott Bay Marina as a new marina, but that was built in 1989. So most of the marinas are 50, 60, 70 years old. Bill and I have worked on a lot of them and patched them together and kept them going. But at the same
We're still patching them.
At the same time, what's happened, particularly over these last 10 years, the capital costs have just skyrocketed. And you've seen that for water and sewer projects and housing and everything. And operation costs, payroll, benefits, insurance, security, all of those things, they've outpaced revenue. So you're getting a pinch on what net revenue you have available to pay for debt service and a lot higher cost. So that's really what the problem is. But this is going to be a situation where there's got to be some kind of reckoning. What we've seen, some answers to that, you've got a lot of small boats here, is trying to figure out a dry stack storage or upland, and you already do quite a bit of that. However, those can be as expensive as wet moorage. If you've looked at, Twin Bridges or some of the other systems that are around here. It's not an easy problem. I'm the chairman of the board for the Northwest Marine Trade Association. And we just talked about that at our board meeting today. It's an issue that's impacting the entire industry. The folks that sell the boats, the folks that repair them, the accessories dealers, and everyone. But it's a real challenge.
Yes, and I'll ask you we'll try and keep this session as a question-answer session as much as possible. We'll have the opportunity for everyone to give like comments and put all those afterwards, and we'll try and collect as much feedback as possible at that point. But let's try and keep this a very question-answer session. Yes.
Hi, my name is Fred Thorne. I'm Coopville resident and have a boat and slip D61. Reading through the material, I saw that, roughly speaking, the revenue of the marina today is about 2.3 million per year. Is that about right? And is that after marina expenses, or is that a top line number?
That's a top line number before expenses. The marina added about roughly 200,000 to the reserves in 2023. So it's expensive to operate a marina.
Okay, so 200,000. So the expenses were
Net revenue 200,000.
2.1
Yeah.
million then?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so the revenue number doesn't really address a repayment capacity. Like if I see a $2.8 million debt service for the major projects, I'm comparing apples and oranges. So the debt service. Well, I mean, we don't know what the debt service capacity is of the marina, right? Or it's very, very small.
It is. We think you can pay for the dredging in the basin, not the channel, not replacing the breakwater, and not replacing the floats.
From the marina?
From a 20-year bond that's paid for by net revenues generated by the marina. However, we say that you've got a 20-year bond. In order to make that payment, you've got to have a marina that's there. So you've got to have new structures, you've got to have a new breakwater. And then somewhere 12, 13 years down the road after you do this dredging, you'll have another session of dredging. Every 12 to 13 years you have to do it. And then that doesn't take care of the
Okay,
the
and then your
channel.
analysis is showing that there's not much flexibility in raising mortgage rates?
You can raise them. We helped you with that over the last couple of years, and, you know, after not increasing them much over the last 10 years, we increased them to get to around the average, I guess, of Puget Sound marinas. But you can't, I just don't think you can push it that much. Well, I mean, I'll ask you, if the marina rates doubled or tripled or quadrupled, what would your decision be in terms of whether you stay here or not?
I'd park it in my driveway and then launch as I need to.
So that's really the key issue. The net revenues aren't sufficient to pay for much more bonding than just paying for the $11 million.
And so none of those repayment debt obligations, the $2.8 million number, that does not include the channel dredging?
No.
Is it fair to characterize the channel dredging as a showstopper, that if that doesn't happen, there's no point in the rest of it?
Well, thinking about it, you know, it's $44 million to do the basin dredging and the new floats and the breakwater. So we're basically doubling that with the 50 million with the channel dredging. And we think you can afford right now with your rate structure handling a bond issue paid for by marina tenants of about $11 million.
Which isn't nearly enough, since it sounds like it's an all or nothing thing, that you have to do all three,
You've got to have
and
them all.
the channel has to be dredged somehow.
That's the problem.
Eventually,
I'll throw a little on the channel dredging right now. Channel dredging is one of the 800-pound gorillas in the room. That channel hasn't been dredged. We don't have good solid bathymetry on it or siltation rates. We know it's silting in, and we know sometime in the, call it midterm, you're truly going to start having issues, larger boats and the mid-sized boats using that channel. So what makes it the 800-pound gorilla in the room is you got to understand that and have that in mind before you're making big money decisions to increase the life of your marina 20 or 40
but
years
it doesn't
or
sound like we
50
have our arm
years.
around that yet.
Because you've got to keep in mind when you make those decisions, at some point you are going to have to dredge that channel too. And that's going to be big bucks. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it does.
Or makes it more complicated.
I might
And
give a little different analogy. If the channel was a road to your development property, and you went ahead and built your development and didn't have access to it, then that wouldn't be wise money spent.
okay. And lastly, it seems like every time I go online, I get bombarded by, we all have 3-foot-itis, right? I mean, they continue to manufacture vessels, but nobody's manufacturing any additional slip space. It sounds like it would be, is that not true?
No, that's true.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like the manufacturers would have a vested interest in their clients having a place to put their boats. And so I don't know whether we could count on them for any money, but certainly some resources and strings being pulled at the state or federal level might be something to pursue with them, because if they don't, they're cutting their own throat.
It's a real serious problem, and some of these issues related to mitigation calculators and whatnot are associated with federal agencies like NOAA Fisheries and NIMFS, and even if you have strong state organizations trying to go after it, there are a variety of issues affecting all of the states, and that may be something that the Senate will do something about or not. It's a really serious problem. I look at it really as that it's looking for those sites that are the easiest to build and maintain. And this isn't one of those sites.
But it's already here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to leave time for others. Thanks.
Hi there, thanks for the event. My name is Vince Johnston, Clinton resident, and I have a 42-footer at the end of CDOC. My question is, in one of the options, the third option, you talk about repurposing the upland area. Has there been any consideration in repurposing some of that while replacing the marina? So in other words, make it a more viable economic zone, lease the space, put in an Anthony's seafood restaurant, make it more of an A-class marina, that sort of thing.
We've had some surface level discussions about that, but we have been focusing on the marina itself because that's really the economic workhorse. But what you're describing is definitely part of that, and probably the second part of that, to take those sheds out and put something in there that's going to generate more revenue. Having said that, the sheds do generate quite a lot of revenue, but they're now reaching the end of their life cycle as well. So, yeah, we actually were just talking about that at a staff level recently. But yeah, definitely, we'd love to have an Anthony's.
Great. And to the previous gentleman's comment, Seattle Yachts has been buying out loads of brokerages around the area. They would be somebody I would contact and say, hey, help us out. You know, they've got money, they're building boats, they're not going to sell boats if they can't, put them in the area.
I've talked with a lot of the boat dealers and yacht brokers, and they're all concerned about this. In most regards, it's beyond what they can handle.
Yeah.
But they are definitely interested in trying to work to some solutions.
When I was looking for a place for my 42-footer, aside from Oak Harbor, which I just managed to get in, the next closest place was up in Blaine.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a big problem.
We've had discussions with the marina management companies. We're looking at just about every solution and option that there is. Yes, please.
I'm Mary Kay Johansson, and I share the slip with Terry. In regards to either replacing the marina or renovating it, what's the difference in how our boats will be accommodated? Obviously, you can't keep all the slips full while you rebuild a whole marina. So what is the difference between those two choices in what would happen with the boats, and how many boats would be able to use the marina during those processes?
I think the Bill's got a great answer for that.
And this ties back to what Paul and I are doing with phased replacement in Des Moines also. If you're looking at a full replacement, we're looking at going in, and it's a different slip mix. You're accommodating the current and future anticipated market, so in all likelihood, you're losing your smaller slips. You're creating a better mix for your larger vessels. And as you go through and do your replacement, you'll phase the replacement dock by dock. And the people that are on a given dock, you'll either work within the marina to temporarily, relocate them, or work with other marinas and other locations for temporary relocation during replacement of that slip. And you work with your tenants to try and keep as many of your existing tenants in your revenue stream with your new slip mix as possible. Does that cover it well, Paul?
I think so. And you're talking about a phase. This wouldn't all happen at once in 1 year. It would be phased over a number of years.
You'd have to phase the construction, because you're not going to vacate and displace everybody in the marina at once. So perhaps you do, 3 docks kind of in a one stair step in one construction season, and then a year or a couple of years later you do the next 3 in Des Moines because of funding. and economics. We've got a 5-year phase between each step.
And sir in the back from.
James Blaisdell, Oak Harbor. First, let me thank you for holding the public engagement and allowing us to reason alongside of you with this difficult question and problem, and the additional plans that you have for that. The public engagement's critical, so thanks for that. I have a request of you, and then 2 quick questions around funding. The request is that when we look at the marina, we recognize that it's the state refers to in the Growth Management Act an essential public facility, and it is essential to this community that we have the marina there. The request is that while we think about it with regard to boat owners, marine operations, commercial and recreational, and we think about it as a community asset, you mentioned that people do go down and recreate even as it is today, although its focus has been around the marine operations. But I'm going to ask you to add to that, and I'm going to provide you my flyer on it, to start thinking about it more as also being an important element in our transportation system. We don't see it that way today. However, first, the flyer I have is about the fact that there are fast, clean, green pedestrian ferries on their way to us that'll be in the Uber mode that'll get us to the mainland. I'm thinking about it at my age because I have to go to Everett sometimes for medical care that's not available on the island. And after that work, I'm not in shape to drive myself back, and so my wife has to do it, but what if she couldn't either? And so the notion that we could have water taxis in the near term, they're being developed now, and we could encourage them coming here under Uber on the water kinds of notions. So please recognize that it is an important part of our transportation system. My 2 questions are around funding, and first of all, I recognize that these are naive questions and that you all have thought about this deeply, and yet I still can't help but ask them. And the first one is over this notion that it's not a federal channel, and I think about the proximity of the Navy's critical fuel pier, and the possibility of that channel, our channel, providing some resilience, and whether or not there's any notion of the Navy getting behind us with the notion of asking that, gee, it ought to be a federal channel because they need it for the resilience of operations and readiness. Question of whether or not we've thought about asking for it to be a federal channel, not because of the other reasons it would be classified that way, but because of its criticality to the Navy. Are we there? And I'll leave that and let you answer the question after I've asked the other one. And the other one is really simple and probably not of great revenue, but that is there are taxes being collected right now as you sell fuel. Do any of those taxes make their way back to the marina, or is it all just into the general fund? And is there anything we could do in lobbying legislators about, gee, that money that was generated with marine fuel ought to get back to the marina for its operations? I'll excuse myself, but if you'd answer that question about anybody working on the Navy federal channel topic, and is that just silly? Thank you.
So I think that's a great idea with the Navy. One of the things that we learned with the Army Corps of Engineers is to make it a federal channel is extremely difficult. You need some sort of economic commerce through the marina, through the channel. And as I recall, and maybe Brian, you can help me with this, it was almost a 1-to-1 ratio. So if the cost was, say, $50 million to make that a federal channel and dredge it, we need to show $50 million in economic development. So that was really tough, and that was almost a showstopper for us. In answer to your question specifically about the Navy, I have not had any conversations with them. I don't know if the mayor or city council has, but it's something worth looking into. Regarding the taxes that we pay at our fuel docks, so diesel is not taxed. There's no tax on diesel. On gasoline, there is road tax, and you can get that back. So the state returns that road tax if you fill out the form and send it in. So we don't really have any tax that's passed through. There is a little sales tax on diesel, I suppose, but not road tax or anything like that. So that would fall into the 1%. So, yeah, it's a very, very small amount.
That's the one over here. What was that?
I think you kind of answered my question.
Okay, so you're good?
Okay.
Oh, okay, then we'll move on. Yes. Oh, yes.
Good evening, I'm Kathy Prozes. I'm a proud resident of Oak Harbor, and we keep our boat on F dock on 13. So I have two questions. When you're talking about replacing the breakwater, are you talking about the breakwater that we provide for the marina with our boat? Or are you talking about the one that the seals live on?
I'm talking about FDOC, where you're moored. That breakwater is actually called a wave attenuator. The way it's shaped like a waffle, no one wave theoretically hits it at one time. But yes, that's what we're talking about.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yes.
Okay, then the other question I have is, this sounds like I don't know anything, and I, maybe don't. We've been to a lot of marinas around Puget Sound, and some of them are like going to the Hilton, and some are like going to a Motel 6. But what kind of criteria have you used to evaluate where our marina falls on that continuum?
So that is a great question. Your Hiltons or your Cap Santas and your Friday Harbors and those sorts of places. The thing that the fancier marinas have in common is one, they're usually a port district, so they have a very steady income stream. Two, they're in a location where they're close to town, so they're able to attract people, and they're what's known as a destination marina. People go from here or from Seattle or wherever to Cap Sante, and they moor their boat, they tie their boat up, and they go into town, and they go to Anthony's, and they can go to West Marine, and they can go to the movies and the pizza places, all that stuff. That's a destination. They have a plan. They themselves have a plan what they're going to do when they get there. Unfortunately, the marina, the Oak Harbor Marina, is what we would consider a stopover marina. We're in the middle of going from where you started, say Seattle and Cap Sante, your destination. We're what they call a stopover. It's a little bit too far to go all the way, so we need a place to tie up for the night. So we'll stop at Oak Harbor and we'll get fuel and we'll enjoy that. It's rare that I hear people actually say, yeah, we just want to come to Oak Harbor and we're going to spend 3 or 4 days here. What I typically hear is, we're on our way to Cap Sante, or we're on our way back home from the San Juans and we're heading to Seattle. One of the things that we do that separates us from other marinas is we have an amazing staff, and they have a can-do attitude. In our reviews and in a survey that Paul did last year proved that our marina is different in the sense that our attendants, our marina people, Elise, Duncan, Stephanie, and Danny, and our seasonals this year, Les and Tiana and Dick, they want to help you. They're like, yeah, what can we do for you? You don't get that at a lot of marinas, and that's what separates us. Sure, we don't have all the bells and whistles, but we're going to kill you with kindness. We're going to be nice. You need that mattress moved? Yeah, we'll help you. Let's put that washer and dryer in while we're doing it. These are all weird things that we get to do. So that's the attack and the approach we have, because you're right. We don't have an Anthony's. We're not the Hilton. I wouldn't say we're the Motel 6 either, but somewhere in between, maybe a Best Western.
Let me jump in on this one too. I look at it from two different sides. First is the cost side. I think if we ask Bill, there's probably not that much difference in the cost for Elliott Bay versus Oak Harbor and a replacement marina.
Yeah, but if you're going through and doing a full replacement.
But you're really talking about what the amenities are. And we hear that a lot, that you don't have an Anthony's, you don't have repair and a lot of other things that Cap Sante has or that other places do. And that really depends upon the community. As Chris talked about it, I think of this as not necessarily a stopover, but a hometown marina. You've got some transient moorage, but it's really for you folks yourselves, and with great staff. And that has to supersede not having some of those things that you might find elsewhere, but also not paying as much in rates.
So I'm just compelled to say that we can be a destination. We don't have Anthony's, they don't have Oak Harbor Music Festival. You know it. We have a different festival almost every weekend. And starting the 1st of January, you can call Island Transit and request a ride. They'll come to wherever you are, take you wherever you want to go, pick you up when you're done, and take you back where you came from. So if people want to shop or have dinner at Kraken, they can make that happen. I'm sitting down now.
Thank you. Yes, sir, you next, and then we'll get you, Corrine.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Mike Bobick. I moved here 2 years ago, stationed here. My wife, first thing we did, we lived on Seaplane Base, was buy a boat, and I put it at the Marina D-Dock. We've since decided to retire and stay here, and one of the reasons we did, her retire, we decided we're going to stay here rather than move, because we love the area, love the folks, and we love the marina and boating here. I spent 38 years in the Army National Guard, 10 years, and I'm leading up to a question, trust me. Working critical infrastructure, Homeland Defense, Homeland Security. Have we tried approaching the dredging of the marina from a Homeland Defense, Homeland Security aspect, critical infrastructure? Because, I mean, the elephant in the room here is the earthquake, the bridge, the runways. What do we got left? We've got boats for food, water, medicine, evacuation, et cetera, et cetera. Without a marina, we don't have access here. Yes, we got Coopville, yes, we got Clinton, but we have no other capability, critical infrastructure-wise, here in Oak Harbor to bring that capability here and those requirements here. So have we approached going after the Corps of Engineers from a critical infrastructure standpoint for dredging? Could we consider in a removal or replacement of a marina a capability, not for a ferry terminal, but for a capability to bring a ferry in an emergency and then build what capability we would need to do that? So those are my two questions. Have we looked at it and have we approached it? Can we approach the Corps or the FEMA, DHS from an aspect of a grant or something along those lines?
Maybe I'll just throw one thing out there relative to the emergency infrastructure. We've worked with other clients to basically you have to develop a rather complex plan justifying this and what the plan is and everything to go after highly competitive grant funding.
Yep.
And the clients that I've worked with doing that have been port clients. I don't know that it's something that's been explored here. It's a road to hoe. I mean, it's not a quick and easy answer solution. It takes a lot of work to get to a point to determine whether you're competitive for that grant funding.
Yep.
And you're going to have to look at kind of changing function and stuff with portions of the marina relative to emergency support.
Certainly.
But it is something that other marinas go after grant
Has
funding
anybody
with.
in the city looked at designating the marina critical infrastructure to the well-being of this town, this city, in the capability it does provide to the town, the northern half of the island here? Again, you lose the bridge, we have problems.
So approximately, it's probably been close to a year now, I was asked to write just what you're saying, what the marina could do in case of an emergency for the county. And it's escaping us what the name of that plan was at this time. Maybe Terry knows. But we were accepted as an emergency route to be used in the event of a bridge failure or a ferry failure or something like that. So we have started that at the county level, And I think from there, that'll only build hopefully to the state level and beyond.
Yeah.
As far as the Army Corps of Engineers goes, the only thing that they kept driving to us was economic development, economic development, economic development. So we didn't even go down that path that I'm aware of with them. Their message was loud and clear to us: you just don't have enough economic development. So there was no discussion of emergency stuff that I'm aware of.
Having worked these programs at the Pentagon for other states, there is money, and there are ways to do that. It's not easy, and it does take a while, but designating that a critical infrastructure, I think, could open up capabilities in funding at the federal level for assistance. Not going to be an easy thing to do. Takes a lot of writing, but there are other states that have done it, not specifically with marinas, but for other things. Thank you.
It's a good point. I know the Port of Friday Harbor got some funding for redevelopment of the Johnston Marina and some of that area in order to improve the upland access. But it has to do with the scale of the funding that we're talking about too. I think we basically are saying this has got to come from a lot of different sources because it's a big lift. But I think it's a good point.
Green.
Hi there, my name's Corrine Lurge. I'm an Oak Harbor resident. So I just want to say that, one, we have a youth selling program that's essential to our community and to the kids of Oak Harbor High School. That's done really well. I'm wondering if you do close the marina, is there going to be any kind of infrastructure left for them and to support programs for the youth of Oak Harbor? Secondly, I think it was the Field of Dreams. They said, if you build it, they will come. And so Oak Harbor, we have long sat and waited. And I just think that this is essential to our community, and we can't see a closure. And I think that you just need to figure out a way and make it happen, and I'll support you however I can.
I appreciate that.
I will say, that the boat ramp will continue no matter what. We still have a public park that is there. And probably what we would do in an instance of that where we remove those moorage docks, we would have a seasonal recreational dock, probably a larger iteration of what we have at Flintstone Park. So we probably would have a larger iteration of what we have at Flintstone Park with the seasonal recreational dock that we would put in. So programs like that, I mean, the harbor itself doesn't go away, right? So we would look at, what's the best next alternative for recreational, and that opens up some of those smaller recreational grants that we could apply for. But, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Donette Perry. My husband and I have a sailboat on B Dock. A quick question that I'm relatively new to the area. Some people have decades of experience here. My question is, could someone describe to me the relationship between the marina, who is under, if I understand this correctly, the city of Oak Harbor? Does the city work with the marina? Are you having to work as a silo by yourself? Is there not collaboration, or am I stepping on toes and I should already know that they don't work together?
No. The marina is owned by the city of Oak Harbor, and we definitely work with them. Excuse me. We are city employees that work there. Brian is the Parks and Recreation Director for the city of Oak Harbor. I'm the Harbor Master for the city of Oak Harbor. We work with them on all things, like the budget, going through city council to help make decisions and getting things approved. Just like any other department, the only thing that's a little bit different is the funding. We're an enterprise fund.
You fund yourself?
We fund ourselves, yes.
With no help from the city. In fact, you're paying the city.
That's correct.
Interesting.
Capture that.
Interesting. I hope that brings up more questions.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. Make it good.
You're welcome to ask us questions individually as we're moving around the easels.
Hi, my name is Wyatt Hedrick. My wife and I have a boat on Sea Dock. And sure, I'd like for everyone to remember, we do not have an Anthony's, but we do have Frank's. Okay? So maybe another source of income we could have coming in, as you walk around the marina, we have a lot of what we call derelict boats. They are boats with 2 feet of mussels hanging off the bottoms. The canvases have long rotted away. They haven't been moved in years. Is there any chance of having them move out if they're not going to take care of their boats? That opens up the slips for a lot of more people to come in, more active boaters to come in.
So that is something we're working on. We're actually working with the state. We've had a number of boats hauled away by the state and destroyed, removed, and that's worked out really well. That's a reimbursement program. As far as the derelict boats that are remaining, some of those are actually owned by people who pay and do occasionally come down and see them. Yeah, it's kind of a mystery. We are going to be actively sending out letters to people, hey, please wash your boat or take the ripped canvas down or something like that. There's going to be an active push on that coming up real soon now that we've slowed down with all the people around the marina. But yeah, we're going to be working on that.
Now, my next question is, at the end of Flintstone Park, there is a beautiful place where we could build a nice dinghy dock. Yes. And have all these boats that are anchored out there for all of our special events to bring their dinghies on in. That gives them access to the downtown area. Thank you.
I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of the Flintstone dock is also coming up to end of its life and just had it inspected and we need to replace that. So that's another funding project that we're working on. Okay, so now's the quiz time for the instructions I gave you earlier to see if you were paying attention. So we're going to clear out the chairs and Mikhail over here in sporting our lovely blue shirt has the stickers for you guys.